Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Shoham Eckhaus, who is the chief strategist at Penguin, a B2B Tech Digital Marketing agency. Thanks for joining us, Shoham.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Shoham, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to 1 word or 1 sentence only, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
At what age do you want to retire?
I want to work less, but never retire.
How long does it take you to get ready in the morning?
If I count my yoga practice in the ready in the morning, then it's like 2 hours.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
I recall a time that my dad called out my name in front of 4,000 people standing silent at a ceremony of a graduation. That was horrible.
Favorite color?
Purple.
What time of day are you most inspired?
Get my best ideas during my shower in the morning.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
I try not to test it. I try to sleep more.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Trends. I usually don't like trends, but high intent campaign focus is something that I hear a lot in the last quarter, and it's misused often. So we can talk about it later.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
I'd get in trouble with my husband if I don't say Tel Aviv, so that'd be it.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Neither.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Mistake. I think it would be waiting too long to start my own business.
How do you relax?
I do yoga.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1.
A habit of yours that you hate?
I'm working on myself to stop jumping into people's words, which is in Israeli culture sort of normal, but with others it's terrible.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
I think it's trusting my gut feeling. It never lies. It usually doesn't lie.
Your favorite Netflix show?
I haven't watched Netflix in a while, but the one thing that comes to my mind that I really absolutely loved was a series by Michael Pollan called Cooked, a short series, gorgeous series. Highly recommended, especially to people who love cooking.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. So let's go into the long form questions, which you can answer with as much detail as you like. And the first one is, can you introduce your approach to how a marketing leader should go about building an effective marketing funnel for B2B?
Okay, this is a very, very big question, but I'll try to make it like useful comments about this. Because to teach the whole theory, we would need, a very long time. But the fundamentals are that you need to really understand your customer journey. That's I'm sure everybody knows that they need to understand it. The thing is that not many companies that I work with, and usually we work with B2B tech startups, not early stage necessarily. When I say startups, I refer to companies who are looking for hyper growth, who are in growth mode. So we work with companies that are in more of the beginning stages, round A, but also companies that are also later on already with a highly developed marketing funnel, and they need optimization. And what's common to 90% of the companies that I come across is that the marketers that we work with, they understand the customer journey, they understand the bottom of the funnel well, and they don't understand very well the top of the funnel. And the reason for this is because usually the team has experience talking to people who are reaching out to them, who are getting in front of them. So it's easy to get a good understanding of what people who are in the bottom of the funnel, what their worldview is, because they talk to a lot of these. They interact with them extensively, so they understand their worldview. What they often don't understand is what is the worldview of all the people who are not yet in their funnel, not yet aware of them, not yet at all looking for solutions in their space. And that is an important part of the journey that you need to figure out. You need to get into the mindset of these people in order to bring more people into your funnel. And that's a challenge. And one of the reasons why it's a very big challenge for B2B technology companies is that, unfortunately, I'm saying that a majority of the marketers that we meet are not highly technical. They're not necessarily very intimately conversing with their target audience, because often the target audience would be highly technical people, a CISO or a chief architect of systems, or some very, very educated professional where you're selling to them the technology. And the marketers are not the ones leading the conversation with those. So they often don't have a deep understanding of the journey. So the first thing that we suggest to them to do when we start working with them is get in front of the prospects, the targeted personas. And if they need help in diving into a deep conversation with these people, we suggest to them to combine arms with their product management team and really engage in what we call audience insight research, so that they understand the buying journey from top to bottom. And understanding, I mean, understanding the worldview of the people that they want to sell to. And only after you really understand their worldview, then you can generate campaigns and content assets that will really appeal to them. So another reason that this is a big, big challenge is that often marketers today are under a lot of stress to deliver the results quickly, and companies and their management sometimes underestimate the value of these of this research stage. So they're in a hurry. They push them to run campaigns. And I cannot overstate the importance of doing this audience research to understand the worldview of the personas. So that's the most important part of the beginning.
Is it accurate to say that starting a B2B business only through paid marketing campaigns is extremely difficult?
First of all, I talk mainly about B2B because this is my this has been my craft for the last 30 years of my life, and it applies especially to B2B because in B2B, if you're selling to software programmers and you are personally not a software programmer, you will never get into their mindset if you don't interview a lot of them intimately, or at least have somebody else in your company interview them intimately and understand their worldview. So of course it applies to B2B. Starting a business with paid, based on paid, I I have not yet come across a company that worked this way and succeeded. So I don't want to say that it never exists, this scenario. I'm sure it might exist, but the types of companies that I work with, which are usually companies who are developing technology and selling it to enterprises, those companies, if they start with only a paid approach, which some of them initiate that sometimes in the beginning, and it makes sense to do some of that in the beginning, of course. But if they base their main strategy on that, just think this is something that another competitor, if you're in a good space, you'll have competitors, right? So your competitors will see what you're advertising. If they have deeper pockets than you, they'll bid more. So they'll win the traffic, they'll capture the demand better than you because they have deeper pockets, more money they pour at it. Then you start a bidding game. You each bid against each other. And there's no room for huge ramp up this way. You can only this is not a great way to build a business. So if I were an investor, I wouldn't invest in such a company. So that's why and startups are usually smart. They know that, so they never, at least the companies that I work with, never met a company that does only that. Although a paid acquisition is really effective in learning fast. So sometimes it's really the best tactic to apply when you want to learn some things really, really quickly.
What are the most common mistakes that SaaS marketers make when trying to optimize their customer acquisition funnel?
Okay, so I'm biased to what I'm seeing in the last couple of months a lot of. So I'll talk about that, especially because we're now seeing companies go through this phase of uncertainty and a mode of a lot of budgets being reduced and HR being reorganized or cut down. So this is the environment, and it just, of course, puts more pressure on the CMO to bring results fast. Okay, so number one most common mistake that I see a lot of right now recently is that companies come to us and they say, okay, we want to focus on high intent prospects, meaning don't bring me the top of the funnel. I don't want to now put a lot of effort into demand generation. I want to bring me the high intent. High intent means people who are actually ready to buy because I need to close deals really fast. That's the pressure that the CMO is under right now more than ever, more than in years in the last 3 years. And the mistake here is that if nowadays you put more of your efforts into demand capture, capturing high intent, you're in a bidding war with other companies who are trying to capture the same demand. And you can only be as successful as the amount of people who are looking for your thing. And that is often, and now when the market is in decline all over, the overall demand is down a little bit, or sometimes a lot. So the whole demand is smaller. Companies are hysterically bidding around it, and there's no way to really grow. The right way to do it is to invest in things that are going to differentiate you and that are going to be a little bit different than what others are doing, and creating new demand. And creating new demand, in that sense, you need to be agile, creative, go out and seek ways to get in front of new people, get in front of them through new ideas that you maybe didn't use before, use triggers of interest that are original. And that's where innovation comes in, and innovation is super important. So that's like one very, very common mistake that I see companies doing. And another mistake is that they reach out to people too quickly. So they run a campaign, they get people to sign up on a lead form because they downloaded an ebook, or they used a calculator, or they signed up for a webinar. And so right after the person fills in their details, the SDR team jumps on them and calls them. That is often a way to burn out your list. So because just think of yourself, like listeners would think of themselves. If they downloaded an ebook, that doesn't mean they want the salesperson to call them or to even reach out to them. So again, I'm circling back to you need to invest more in nurturing and bringing value to your audience so that that they appreciate your brand more. And people today more and more rely on peers that recommend to them more than before. The trust issue today is more important than it was before. Now, in times of uncertainty, people really want to stick to highly trusted brands. So if you're a brand that's not familiar and somebody just came across your asset and downloaded it, it doesn't mean they trust you yet. Remember that they don't trust you yet. So don't burn them by reaching out to them too early. So that's another very, very common mistake. And also another very, very common mistake is that they don't invest enough in talking to clients. That's the most common mistake of the marketers, because it's so difficult for them. In the areas that I work in, if you're selling technology, the marketer needs to be very educated on the technology, and sometimes they're not. So my advice to them in this case would be team up with your product manager, who will also want these insights, and go talk to customers together. That's my advice.
What is something that most marketers believe is a mistake, but you believe that it's not?
Hmm. Um, a lot of people have conceptions about what's right and wrong. Um, I'll tell you an example. Um, People have been taught in the last few years that everything they do needs to be data oriented, data driven. All your decisions need to be all data based, all decisions. And I'm a very analytic person. I love looking at the data, learning everything we can from the data, using AI tools where you can, analytic tools, BI tools. It's great. But especially in B2B, when you are looking at very niche audiences, the data that you have is very limited. It's limited to it's not big data. It's small. Think of most of our clients. They're marketing to a group of very, very niche professionals, and those might be a group all over the world of 300 people, or it might be all over the world 1,000 people of this sort. And if you want to get in front of such people, it takes a lot of time to get in front of the majority of these people. And so if you try to be data driven about every decision you make in marketing, you're going to miss out on opportunities to impact some really, really influential people quickly, although your data doesn't show that this is a good sign. So I'm maybe I'll connect to the item that you asked me in the first part. You asked me about what's the tool that I gain most important, and I said to my gut feeling, trust my gut. And I think I'd apply it here also, where if if you understand your market and your audience, and you are talking to them, then I think qualitative insight is underrated. So so to answer your question back simply, the mistake people make, which is the thing that people are Yeah, what you asked about something that people think is a mistake, which I think it's not. It is to make decisions even if you don't have the data. That is not a mistake, because in the early stages, sorry, go ahead. In the early stages of companies, especially in B2B, they don't have the massive data because they're getting in front of a few people. And the challenge in the beginning is to recruit the early adopters. And even if after you recruited a few early adopters as your clients, you're now trying to get the next circle of people, and it's not masses. So if you run a campaign and you got just a handful of people responding to your campaign on LinkedIn, for example, it might seem to you like it's it's you're not getting the ROI because it cost you $400 for a conversion. But what you might be identifying, and not through the data but through qualitative identification, is that some really interesting people are responding to you in some way, or you got a phone call like 2 days after you posted that on LinkedIn from somebody super important that told you that they heard from somebody else on your LinkedIn network that they said something about you. And that might be a signal that's really insightful. So in the early stages, before you have the more massive data, those are invaluable cues that you need to tune into.
When is it better for B2B business to hire an agency for its growth rather than grow as an organic team?
Um, of course, I'm not 100% objective on this, but I will say this quite objectively, that it really depends on the company, and the people that are in the company. So if somebody's managing marketing, they first need to look at their resources, their team, their existing team, and see what are the strengths that are existing in their team. Now, if it's a startup, usually they don't have a huge team, and they start out with just one, two, three, just a few people. So a few people can't cover all the professions, all the expertise needed in marketing. And in that case, it makes a lot of sense for the startup to hire outsourced resources to cover specialized areas where they're not well covered within the company. For the long term, like for more advanced companies that have bigger teams, I still find that in niches, it's very often the best result will be with outsourced help with the agencies. And the reason is that I'm seeing lately a lot of companies who really struggle to hire talent in specific marketing professions. Finding people, so finding someone who's super knowledgeable, experienced in SEO, in PPC, in creating content of specific sort, in people who are highly proficient in specific social channels, and so on. Finding that talent is difficult, because professionals that are really, really good, they often don't want to work for one company. They prefer the variety of companies to work for. And I know that in my company, even we have people that are experts in different fields that are working for Penguin, and we also have a circle of freelancers that are experts in different things, that we have access to these people. We work with them regularly, and these are people who a startup would love to hire, but they could never hire them. So I think there's different reasons to go for an agency, and it's very individual for the company. Of course, for the very core strategic functions, I would, if I were now a CMO of a startup, of a B2B startup, some functions I would want to be in-house for sure. Product marketing, for example, is often you need somebody in-house that's in the depth of the understanding of your product. And other areas, as you grow, you decide what are the areas that are really strategic for you, and those are the areas where you need in-house people. But there's pros and cons, of course. So it really depends what's strategic to you. But I think that if a company identifies someone who can really be a great evangelist for them, whether they write themselves or they brief others, but an evangelist who can really carry the leadership role for the content marketing, then that is essential and strategic. Not all companies and startups, especially, have the privilege of identifying such a person and having them in house. It's a challenge and it's an important one. But I mean, that's one of the functions that I would put on the top of the list for in house.
For an existing B2B SaaS company with an established product, should they expand to a new product under the same brand, or should they build a whole separate brand for a new product? How should they balance the investment between the two products?
This is usually also, this also depends. Sorry that most of my answers is depends. But here's another mistake that is often taken by startups. In the beginning of their journey, as they're figuring out their product market fit, and as they're starting to build their marketing funnels, they often have some alternative paths that they are considering. And the most common mistake that I see in this sense is that they don't make a decision on one way or another, but they decide to go both ways. Okay. Because they don't want to, they're not sure which will be better. So they go both ways, or sometimes even more than two ways, two different strategies, or two different segment focuses, or two different products, whatever. And the direct result of that is that you're splitting all of your effort, all of your resources into two spears instead of one. So in some cases, it really makes sense to split into two, because you have each of them individually has a really good business case and a good, solid strategy that can that makes sense. But that is not the common case. The more common case that I encounter is where a company is keeping two alternative products and going with two spears because they're not sure which will be more successful. And as a result, they are dividing their efforts instead of taking everything that they have and focusing it on one main direction. Sometimes it is the right move because you want to lower your risk. You're not sure, so for a while, sometimes it's the right move to keep two products alive or two strategies alive for a while until you make the decision. But companies need to decide, to understand that the result of this is that all of your efforts, including your marketing efforts, are divided into two, and so it's a half power often. Now, this relates to your question about branding. So if a company has a brand and now they have two products, should they brand each product separately? The answer is it's better if they don't need to. It's much better if they don't need to. If both of the products can be all, marketed under the same brand, it's better, because then all of your efforts are, if you're working towards brand awareness, you don't want to divide the brand awareness into two brands. You prefer to put all of it into one brand. But in some cases, it doesn't make sense because let's say the two products are not complementing each other. They're even sometimes damaging each other's brand, because one is a low-end product, one is a high-end product, for example, and you don't want to influence the brand identity of one with the other. So sometimes you have to separate. But it's a privilege that companies that are very well funded can have. Not most startups shouldn't go that path if they can.
All right. So the last question for you is of a personal kind. It is basically, what would you be doing in your life right now if not this?
I'm actually, first of all, I love what I do. I'm consider myself I'm an engineer and also a creative person. So I'm guessing if I weren't a marketer, I would probably pursue other creative career. Maybe an architect, maybe an artist.
Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. That was Shoham Eckhaus, who is the Chief Strategist at Penguin, a B2B Tech Digital Marketing agency. Thanks for joining us, Shoham.
Thank you very much. It was a huge pleasure.
Check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.